So then let me take you on a journey here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to introduce you to some code so that you can see that I'm not kidding when I say it is readable. Okay, you can understand this. All right, so if you come over here to GitHub, and this is me here on GitHub, and this is my child theme that I'm using for my site. All right, so if we come down here and we see this is one particular file, and here what I'm doing is, well, let me just back out of this. I'm going to go to functions, and notice that this says auto load. So it's telling you what it's doing. Okay, in your mind, okay, it's auto loading. So you know, okay, it's going to auto load something. This is for formatting. This is for markup. Markup is HTML markup. All right, so we're going to go here and auto load. Now, there's a bunch of stuff down here that explains what we're doing, but here's what I want you to see. Don't get caught in the details here while you're looking at this. What I want you to see is this. So we have an add action. This is out of WordPress. Really what add action is it's registering. This would have probably been a better word. Registering a callback. That's what it's doing. This is an event, and this is a callback. Now, this one, you might be looking at it going, that's hard. Yeah, that is. I'll explain all this to you later. What I want you to see, though, is the name of the callback. It calls this function autoload _ files. What is that function doing? Don't even look at the words up there. What's it doing? It's going to autoload files. Okay. It's telling you specifically what the expected behavior is. All right. Then what we have is load structure files. Okay, well, I have another function here. It's calling it load structure files. Well, if I come down, I've got function files, and then I have structure files. Okay, so if I scroll down here, load structure files. Well, in this particular structure is the HTML markup. Maybe that might have been a better name. Structure actually comes out of Genesis. But HTML markup gives us that structure of our web document. Okay, so that's what we're meaning here by structure. Now, what is this doing? It's saying load. Load means I'm going to go and get this file, and I'm going to load it into memory. That's what it means to load something in a computer. And for this one, these are structure files. They're doing this. They're laying out the structure of our web page. Okay, so I have a folder here. This is where the files are located, is in that physical folder. These are the file names. That's the files. And I could have actually been much more verbose and said file names. And I'll probably likely change that now that I said that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to go through each of these, and I'm going to loop through them. Now, this for each, that's a PHP thing. Okay, and all it's going to do is just sit there in a loop. It's going to go through each of these. Include, that's a PHP thing. What do you think include means? Include, think about that. If I have a folder and then a file and an extension for that file and I include it, what that means is I'm loading it into memory. They have includes and they have requires. Okay, and that gets files loaded into memory. Include, if that file doesn't exist, then it's just going to give you just a warning. A require, on the other hand, says if that file doesn't exist, well, then you're going to get a great big old error up there and say, whoop, that file doesn't exist, and I'm going to stop executing. That's what that is. Okay, so these are PHP functions. Okay, now I'm just going to scroll down. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say auto load files before Genesis loads. Okay, so I'm calling this function right here, and that's calling these particular functions. Now you notice I've broken everything up. I have structure files. I have function files, and I'm calling them differently. And if I had more, I'd call those differently too. I've laid things out into modules. Now, let me show you that. Okay, so that this starts to make sense to you. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to go to lib. And what do you see? Functions, structure. See that? So by breaking that up, I said, okay, I'm going to load these particular files in this folder at this time. I'm going to load these particular files in that folder at a different time. So by naming things and thinking logically, you're able to go through and read that code. Okay, does that make sense to you? Now let's just open this up for structure. All right, so we've got search, post, menu, header, footer. In a website, these are the different parts of the website. So I'm going to come back over here to here. And I'm going to load this up. And I'm going to say, okay, on a website, I would have a header area. That would be this up here. It could even include the navigation potentially, depending upon how you have it laid out. That's that opening part of your website. It's the header. Okay, and then I have content, right? And then, well, I'm going to need to scroll down here. Hold your on. Let's watch your eyes. And then I get down here and I have some more content. And then I have this footer. This is the bottom part of the website. I have what we call widgets in WordPress. So I have different widgets laid out and then the actual bottom of the site too. See, so you can see how it's all broken up. Okay. So if we go back and we take a look at that code again, comments, well, that would be on a post that has comments. We have archive pages. We have that footer. We have that header. Oh, there's the menu. We have the post, which in WordPress, everything's a post. Okay, whether it's a page, custom post type, doesn't matter. Everything's a post. Okay, so that would be all that content. I actually like that word better, content. So that could be content.php and then search. All right. So if we were to open one of these up, let's see what we get. Okay, so here I've opened up the header.php. All right, I'm going to scroll this up. Now, WordPress is event driven, and I'm going to explain all that to you, so don't freak out over there. But everything is event driven. So therefore, you register your function. Here's my function right here. You register it to some event. Here's an event. And when this event fires, well, then it calls my function. Now, notice that when this fires, what's the name of the function? Render full page menu container. Render hamburger into the header nav. Render site title area. Render means that I'm sending it out from the web server out to the browser. That's what render means. Remember, I explained that to you before. I'm telling you specifically what this function does. It's including another file. See that? What does include mean? It means I'm loading that into memory. Now, this is a view file. I lay things out in views, and you want to get that habit of doing that. Notice there's no HTML in here. No, that's in the view. And as soon as I load that HTML file, it's being sent out to the browser. Okay, so this is my menu container. Here's my header navigation file. That's my view. Let's see what else I have. Let's just scroll down. Okay, site title area. Well, here's my site title. And here I have the home URL that I'm setting up beforehand with a variable saying URL. So as you go through and you can start to read this, that's my point, is that we can make code very, very simple. Notice how skinny this is. It's just doing a couple of things. That's it. Easy to read versus you've got this big page that you open. It's just full of code all in one function. You're like, oh man, how am I supposed to understand this? Well, it's how you think about the architecture of code and when you want to strive for what we call clean quality coding. And that's what we're doing here. We're keeping it very skinny. We're naming things to tell you specifically what they do so that you don't have to read instructions, right? These comments are instructions. You don't have to read that. All right, so there, I showed you just a little bit of code. And if you want to just pop through this repository, you can. There's other code in here too. Right, so I've got like this catfish, which is a sticky footer. So there's some code there for that. And if I open that up here, my views. Okay, so like here's Facebook. And that's so you can click on this and it's a social share. We'll see right here, social share. It's telling you what it is. All right, good. Well, if I open up another view, well, what else do I have? Scroll to the top. And notice it's all HTML. See that? Okay. Let's look at another view. Well, I've got a share, and this is just wrapping the Facebook and Twitter in this panel. So this is all HTML. Great. Now this, if I open this up, this might freak you out. This is OOP. It's just a different way of laying out code. And I can teach this to you later, but when you look at this is still doing what I just talked about, render. Well, right here, I'm just loading a file in, aren't I? Yep. Properties. I'm initializing properties and I'm just setting these up. I'm going to go get the title and then I'm going to do something with that. I'm going to get the permalink and then I'm going to prep it. I'm going to encode it then. Okay, so it makes the code readable. What I invite you to do is this. I want you to pop around this repository, pick any of them that you see and go through it and just start reading the code. Don't freak out about the syntax. Okay, syntax being like that semicolon at the end of the line. Public, what the heck does that mean? Well, don't worry about that right now. It's a function. Function means it's going to do something. That's the name of it so that we can call it. See, I called it right there. Include, that's another function with something being sent into it that says, hey, include this please, and load that into memory. So just sit down and read it. When you take time to read code, you start to see patterns and you start to see, oh, maybe this is making sense. The key is to find code that is readable, that does make sense. That's not just like, I'm going to pick a variable and I'm going to call it X. Well, what the heck does that mean? Right? I don't do that. And I'm not going to teach you how to do this. Instead, we're going to call it by what it is. And that's what you'll see here. So I want you to sit down and just start reading code. Now, as you go through my repositories, okay, so you've got that, and then you can come down here and you can say, all right, well, here's know the code, and here's the repositories for that. So you can go through and you can read these. All right, and this will help you to get used to seeing some code. So just take that time, go through and read a little bit of it. And if it doesn't make sense to you, if you're a pro member, go over to the forum and ask me and I'll explain it to you.